I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. Now, I have been living basically in the sky, and I know a lot of you guys have been kind of memeing on the fact that this is not all the mods to the sky, and to be honest, it's not, and I do plan on actually moving to the ground. This, however, was a really nice settlement for what it was. It was free, and you just can't beat free. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's a nice living place, and I didn't have to spend time building it. Instead, I got to spend the time working on some of the mods. But today, that building responsibility falls back on me. And one thing I do love doing in mod packs is actually building. But what I don't like is the resource gathering part. Yeah. That's the part that takes a very, very long time. So I think today, on top of exploring to find a new location, we should definitely work on that resource generation problem. And thankfully, there's a way to generate a ton of different type of building blocks if we just utilize some of that aluminum that I said was going to be really important at the start of the series, and we combine that together with Xycraft. Because Xycraft adds this very easy to craft extractor, and the extractor can do a lot of cool things. It can extract items and fluids from the world. Basically just a resource generator that can generate a ton of different things. It can even generate lava, for example. It can also just passively generate amethyst, and there's other buds that it can actually work on as well, which is going to be very helpful later on down the road. But look at this, it can generate black ice from different mods, and there's a ton of things, including calcite, which is super important for building. I really love this. Blackstone, all of your basics, even Certus quartz for applied energistics, making the farming of Certus quartz absolutely easy and infinite. It just doesn't get any better than this. There's so many recipes here. You can just take a gander. I mean, just so many. So all of these resources, there's a ton of them that I just want to be able to passively generate, right? So I can use them as building materials down the road. This polished dripstone one is actually fantastic as well. But aside from all of that, right, I'm just kind of scrolling through some of them so you can get an idea of what we're going to be working with. But yeah, oh man, just the idea of having tuff and other building materials like this is going to be fantastic, making my life a whole lot easier, where I can just mainly focus on the design part of the build and less about the gotta go mine this side of the build. Now, before I go do that and actually locate an area, I do want to make another mage spellbook. And this might sound absolutely crazy to do this, but you guys have been really wanting me to check out the arcane library from ours. Now, to be able to locate this library, I'm going to have to use the brazier, and then we use the tablet of locate structure like we've used so far. But this time we actually have to augment it with the mage spellbook, which, yes, is the tier 2 spellbook. And then once that's activated, there we go. This should give us a compass and tell us where this place is at. So yeah, tablet of locate, it is running, and I'm assuming that it took a while to find this, but it says failed to save chunk at that location. I'm assuming though that it did find this location, or so I hope it did. They can be very far away. I know some of you were confused by my method of actually using this a couple of episodes ago to find the ancient city, and you guys were telling me to just make the explorer's compass. Well, I don't know why I didn't show this, but the explorer's compass does exist. But the recipe is heavily modified, and you actually need a recovery compass in order to make the explorer's compass. And this requires you to have found the ancient city, more or less. So believe me, the R's way is definitely the way to go. Now, while I'm out on this journey looking for this biome right here is actually what I'm after. Now, this biome is the one where I found the village that basically said they will burn any witches they see. So I'm not going to want to move into this particular area, but maybe I can find another biome like this. And this biome has a very specific name. It's called the Weeping Witch Forest, which you can see down in the bottom of the screen there. It may be too tiny, but it is from the biomes we've gone, and I really love the look of this place, and I would really love to actually set up base in a place like this. But I need to find one that is not surrounded by a bunch of other biomes that intersect. I would prefer this to be a pretty large area. And so step 1 of my build is essentially done, right? We need to find a location. And so now I have an idea of essentially what biome I need to find. And you can use the nature's compass, by the way. And if you didn't know, you can at like, let's see, there's regions unexplored. You can actually at and see all of the locations there. But yeah, this is the Weeping Witch Forest. And when we select this, you can see it targets the biome. So I could use this as we continue our journey with the Pathfinder to find that biome. Well, find a biome that's along that path, and hopefully it'll end up being a good generated one. And with that said, off I go, following this compass, slowly but surely working my way to wherever this thing is taking me. Oh, and you know what? I just realized this actually does tell you when you hover over it how far this is away. And now I can see it's over 8,000 blocks out. That is a very, very far. It was probably over 10,000 blocks out. That's a long ways away. And so now after traveling over 10,000 blocks, look what's looming over the horizon. Yes, right off the side of an archwood forest and kind of setting on its own platform, floating. Yeah, very magical. Now this appears to be the front or the entrance of this place. And I'm kind of curious. Oh, goodness. Oh, we got hit right away with an effect. Okay, that's interesting. It's very dark in here. Use some night vision. There we go. Whoa. Oh, there's runes on the floor. Okay, this could get kind of dangerous. Wildland Defenders are definitely not a fun thing to play with. But I think we're handling ourselves pretty well with our sword. Okay, so what do we explore? Maybe having some extended night vision would be a good idea. What is all of this? Oh, there's like a chest and everything over here? Okay, so you... Is this a pressure plate that... Wait a minute. I think I know these traps. I think I know these traps. It's containment jars? Wait a minute. There are containment jars with mobs filled in them inside of this place. Okay, so that is interesting. I'm kind of scared to step on pressure plates now. What was that? Oh, I stepped on another rune. Actually, there is a way for us to see like what is on these runes and potentially see other things as well. And I guarantee that we're going to need it for this, called Magic Sense. There's another rune I just stepped on. Oh, but this is where it's at. We will find tons of these books, right? And we're supposed to find a bunch of these codec entries in here. And that means even more of our tier 1 spells unlocked. And we should have the potential to unlock literally every tier 1 spell available to us right now. Stepping on these runes are so glitchy. That is so weird. It like rotates you? That's not, it feels like lag. But look at that. There's just a bunch of blocks in here. But man, it takes a little bit to get to this place. So it's like, I don't know, by the time you have access to this place, I mean, you've already probably gathered a bit. It's just a little bit more helpful, I guess. I don't know, it just kind of gives you a little bit of a boost. And there's another chest right here. Yeah, like I said, all the codex entry, and we get some potions of regeneration. I'll actually take those. These are mana regeneration potions. And just getting all of the wild and drops is just extra. Now, I did go ahead and light this area up a little bit. I'm trying to see, is there anything? There's a storage lectern already here. Oh, that's so nice. So you have access to a storage lectern. It looks like different hallways that lead into different sides. Oh, and there's some cool stuff over here too. There's no entry into here? This is where I almost wonder if like Magic Sense would expose different areas of this. I kind of want to see what's in this chest. Oh yeah, just all of these. This is really all I care about because this just saves the monotony of unlocking all of those tier 1 spells, which honestly can be kind of a pain. This is very neat. Very dark though, super dark. So yeah, you need some kind of torch in here. Looks like chiseled bookshelves. Oh, there's a ton of chests in these. Oh, look at all this. So much. And the fact that these supporter books and stuff are in here, the tomes. Oh, that's even better. Some of these tomes can have really, really powerful spells on them. Oh, I'm definitely gonna like unlock every Yeah, we're gonna unlock every single codex from the tier 1. That definitely just happened, and it looks like now, okay, every single one you learn after that is just simply giving you experience points. That's cool. My goodness, though. Like, this whole area is just full of so many chests, and all of them have different books. Undead Steed? Just tons of source gems as well. And there we go. We just found Takeoff, even though we really don't need Takeoff, but the fact that I just found that in here. I mean, it's bound to happen. You're bound to discover literally every single one of those tomes. Takeoff just happens to be one of the best tomes early on, honestly. That's so good. I was hoping to find my tome because, believe it or not, I do have a tome. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not as powerful as Takeoff or anything, but it's still a thing. The Takeoff book, by the way, gives you kind of an elytra flight. But I'm so glad they included this in here. This block right here is the Mana Weave block, or one of the Mana Weave block types. Yes, Skyweave, that's right. Which mimics a skybox. It's like perfect and also quite trippy. Now this place is super cool looking and might be something we use later on in a build possibly. We might be able to take components of this potentially and move it into our base. Yes, I'm talking about the cut paste tool. Now I'm sure this place is filled with many more secrets, but remember, I am on a journey to generate resources and find a place to call home. And along the way, I managed to do that. So right along the path, right as I was traveling along, look what I happened to find. Almost the perfect shaped area with a clearing right in the center of it. And this place is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at the center clearing. That means I don't have to clear out as many trees to, get a build up and running. Oh, this is going to be fantastic. And it's like the perfect size. I mean, and just over here, there's a cave that drops down quite a bit. And it also has like a lush, looks like a lush caves biome right underneath. Oh man, this definitely has the potential to become a beautiful base. Now, before I start working on building things out, I want to make a mega torch and place the mega torch roughly in the center. And this is going to prevent the headache of needing to deal with mobs, because this will actually prevent them from spawning. Now, if you are playing along on this seed and you want to try and build the same area, of course, there will be world downloads for those who support come episode 10. But if you guys are wanting the coordinates, up there in the top right, you can actually see the exact chords for this location. That is, if you are playing on the seed, which of course is listed in the description. I mean, if you've made it to episode 8 so far and you haven't subscribed already, like what are you even doing at this point? So while you're down there checking out the description, definitely click that subscribe button. Oh, by the way, since I've been navigating through the Waystone menu quite a bit, there's actually some tips that you may not know about the Waystone menu. If you hold down shift, whenever you click next, it actually takes you to the very back of your location here. And instead of like doing this one by one and sending something somewhere, you can hold shift and this will actually send it to the very front of the list. Same thing with the bottom. If you, for example, don't want ground to be here, you can hold shift and you can send that all the way to the back of the list. Just some tips. Now, believe it or not, this cave over here is actually going to come in handy because we do need dripstone. So it is going to be very convenient having ourselves a little bit of this stuff. And that's because dripstone is actually used to make the extractor. So I'm thinking about 16 of these is probably going to be a good starting point, giving us the ability to literally generate just about everything in its list. Now, with a lot of these, we're either going to need lava or water. So it's probably recommended to have a few tanks of that nearby, so that way I can use a bucket to gather it up and place it down, which we're going to need to do that probably quite a bit. So right up here, I have some bookmarked recipes. And whenever you bookmark a recipe, it actually stores it so that way you can hold shift and see the recipe built in, which is pretty darn cool and a new feature of JEI. But you can also click on this and it jumps you straight to the extractor recipes, making it a little easier to kind of see everything. Now, let's go ahead and first start with one of the simpler ones, right? Just generating cobblestone. Now, for the most part, the actual direction or whether it's upside down or not really doesn't matter, but there are a few exceptions. For example, the dripstone one, this does have an orientation, even though it doesn't necessarily look like it does here. It does have a very specific orientation. And that means that yes, we do have to, for the dripstone, place it not like it shows here, but actually kind of flipped upside down. Just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that before we got kind of going with this. Now, cobblestone needs to go in the middle for this to work, which is our cobblestone one we're working on. And we place the extractor on it, right? And then we just need to apply lava here and water here. And you can see if the if the effect is actually working on the side, that means this thing is ready to go, and you can place an inventory on it, and you can now see it's just passively generating those recipes. Very similar to something you may be used to from other mods. For example, it's kind of like the igneous extruder from thermal. And for example, by the way, what I was mentioning earlier, where I said that sometimes the orientation does matter, if I grab the water over here, put it down, and then I go ahead and do dripstone, what you're going to notice is this is not going to work because it requires it to be upside down. But if I set the same thing the opposite direction, it will actually work. An easy way to get water into something like this is just placing down some trapdoors to lock your water in place. And you can close up the trapdoors. You can see I have water on top of the dripstone. And now whenever I put the extractor facing upside down, it's going to activate and start working. And I'll just place my drawer down here, and yeah, this is going to be kind of like a timer now, because this produces, I believe, 1 dripstone every minute. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but it does build up over time. So after about 5 minutes, as you can see, I got all of the other ones set in place. So yeah, perfect. So now we have moss. We also have ourselves some mud, which is just being passively generated now. Very, very nice. With just some water underneath. Like I said, most of these can be formatted in this way where the stuff is on the bottom. But yeah, there's a couple that have to go this way. Also, the way to generate lava has to go this way. So now while I'm planning out my build, these resources are going to all be generating, which is going to be very, very helpful. And eventually this will get moved. For right now, this is here because I don't want it to be in the way when we start building. And so now the fun begins, actually planning out the base. And I've been doing a lot of different kind of research, basically looking up different ideas, basically going onto Pinterest and sort of searching different ideas, getting kind of things put together, a mix and match of sort of wizard style builds and also technical style builds. And I think I've come up with an idea. Essentially, what I want to have a castle, kind of a wizard's castle that is above the ground. And then I want to have a mysterious laboratory that the above ground castle leads down into. Maybe even drawing some inspiration from the whole Witch's Road idea if you happen to catch Agatha all along, where there will basically be a hatch that gains access to a portal that it kind of just leads to what is essentially our imagination, but it will lead to a special area. Kind of like a major technical factory. I don't know, I got plans. And so with that in mind, I've gone out 30 blocks in this direction. Well, not exactly this direction. I've gone 15 blocks out each direction, which will leave us with a 31 by 31 square. And I just need to connect each side. And there's a tool that we can actually use to make this a little easier for us. And that tool is going to actually use up our last Allthemodium nugget, and that is the building gadget. And this thing is so good. And by the way, we are not wirelessly charging. What is actually charging is my battery. So I've decided to just leave the battery in my inventory for right now, just so that way you guys can see that I don't have wireless charging just yet. But yeah, we are charging the battery every now and then. I'm popping it in here and I'm charging it up and so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind. Eventually though, we will get wireless charging and it's going to be pretty easy to do. Now the default key for building gadgets is G, and there's actually a lot of conflicting keybinds that you have to change before you can functionally use this and pull up this menu. But all we got to do is make sure we're in build to me mode, shift right click to select the block that you want. And then I just want to stand in the position where I want this block to be placed and right click. And you'll notice this has now built to me and has made building this one side so much easier. So this is how I want to map out this build. I want to get an idea of just the scale and the size of everything before we really start building upwards. Now we're going this large sort of out. I do want these, I think, to be double walled, but I'm going to want my walls on the interior basically having a way to walk around. Might be a good idea, or at least a way to walk this way and this way from all directions. And so we can possibly go out 1, 2, let's see, this will be the wall. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then what we'll do is we'll have 2 more blocks out, and this will be the other outer wall. Now, believe me, in my head, this is all working out. I just need to keep in mind, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have a walkway that's 7 depth, and then here is another outer wall. I mean, that's just kind of how I'm putting this together in my head. Now, there should definitely be some outer towers. I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks out on the interior, and I am going up a little bit just to go ahead and get this design set up. And kind of expanding out. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And I think 19 is going to be a good number right here. And these are just going to basically be 19 square boxes that are going to have rooms on the interior of them and possibly some towers. Oh, and by the way, there is a bridging mod that is in here, but the default button for it is actually comma. And whenever you turn that on, then you can build forward. For all of my builders out there, yeah, I know you appreciate that. Now, I think the scale of this fits the whole very, very well. But we are going to have to keep in mind to make this actually look right with this being the tree height. Yeah. This is going to have to be very, very tall. Now, the best way I've found to kind of do this and to get an idea is to just hang out on some of these trees and then kind of find like roughly on the line, like where a good height is. And I've just marked it. So I feel like that is a pretty good spot right there. Like for at least a tower to kind of have like its archery towers on. Now, the cool part about using the building gadgets mod is I only need to build 1/4 of this entire build, because I can just simply paste after copying. Once I get the whole thing built, I can just simply paste the new sections into each of these, especially when you're doing symmetrical builds like this. And I think for me, just pasting in the base frame is going to be really nice. And then I can kind of get random when I start to use the building gadget to exchange blocks and kind of paint the sort of style in. Now, I'm thinking the primary use for like this tower or these towers in general might be for our mystical agriculture farm. Because I do need to keep in mind that those take up quite a bit of space, and I am going to need a place for them to reside. And I think this is going to be like the perfect size to have 4 separate crop farms that are set up that have room to expand upwards. And then I'm thinking on the outsides, we could have aviary areas for our bees when we get into productive bees. When I'm planning out builds like this, I've got to keep in mind those things. I've also got to keep in mind, where am I going to put my applied energistics system, right? Where am I going to put mechanism stuff? I think mechanism stuff, though, is going to go underground, but that is where I'm going to have to come up with an idea for how do we get underground and how do we end up clearing those things out? So there's a lot of things that are going on in my head right now, thinking about all of these mods in the future while I'm also scaling this out and kind of prepping. That's why this building's so big. This mod pack is big, which means big build. So now I'm starting to close this up after getting some kind of decorations or ornate sort of pillars off the top. I do want the outer edge and the ring to be a little bit thicker. And so I have doubled up on the outside. It looks horrible right now, but trust the process, right? That's kind of what it's all about. If I step back over here, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It's actually looking pretty bad. Now, after taking a look at it a little bit further, I think what's making the perspective look so weird is that the tower right here needs to be a bit taller. It needs to go up to about here. And I can actually cut and paste this, believe it or not, and move it. So to cut it, I can use the cut paste gadget. This is a couple of modes. The main thing we need to worry about is selecting the first corner by right clicking, and then selecting another corner by shift right clicking. And this is going to select a bounding area. And then I can just simply click the button in the top left-hand corner called cut. And when I do this, it is going to cut this out of existence, and it is going to store it into the gadget. And hear me out, this can be used for a lot of other applications, but this is not deleted in any way. We can, as soon as it's finished, we can simply paste it back in. But I do want to paste it in much higher. Now, I think I essentially want to double its height, so I've built a pillar up here, and you can actually anchor to the position, and we can now get kind of a good feel by going over here and going, okay, is this a little bit better on the proportions? Ooh, I mean, I might even need to take it even higher. Now that is starting to look a lot better. I also got to keep in mind that there's going to be these hallways that are right here. And the structure around this is going to look a little bit better once it's all sort of set in stone. Pun intended. And now that this is in place, I can just right click and there it goes. I pasted the whole thing and kind of fixed it. Now, you know what? After cleaning up a lot of the edges, that looks a whole lot better. And what I also want to start doing now is sort of building out this outer wall, so that way we know kind of how big this archway is going to be. Okay, so now this really starts to put it into perspective and things are starting to sort of look a little bit nicer. Now I also just placed in the wall on the outer edge. This is what it's starting to fill out. I mean, it's getting there. And yeah, this is all just framework. So that's why it's all stone right now. And I will paint in with the exchanging gadget, which is one of my new favorite ways of building. Now already I'm getting into the copy paste gadget. So I can actually copy this. I recommend right clicking the first corner. That is going to be the position where it is going to be selected from, and then shift right click another location. Now, by default, this right here wasn't a perfect selection, but I can modify that by clicking the settings button, and we can actually adjust this, and we can start modifying the size. You can see right here. Now, if you don't like the blurry background here, what you can actually do to remove that, which is kind of odd, it is underneath the options and accessibility, you can actually remove the background blur. So if you remove the background blur, you can get a little bit better sort of understanding of what you're seeing here, making this process a whole lot easier. So you can see I now have everything, I believe, perfectly selected. Looks really, really good. And now that I have this, all we have to do is right click, right? I believe right click, make sure we're under copy. No, it is already copied. Then once we have that copied, we can go into the paste mode. So here's the paste ready to go, just like this, but it is still in the same orientation, but we can rotate this until we get it into the position that we want. And I think right here is that position. This looks pretty good. You can anchor it into position and just double check, and then just right click. And it's going to take the items out of your inventory. Later on, it can be hooked into your applied energistics system, but there it is. And we've just copied this onto this side. Now I'm working on shaping out the outside, giving it a little bit more depth. And then I was thinking, well, the inside's also going to look very, very bad as well if I don't do anything for it. So I can definitely add some extra shape just like this onto the inside too. Especially for this upper part, which is more just for looks. I don't really think I'm going to functionally use this place. It all depends really, but there we go. So I'm getting this laid out just like that. Ooh, that's actually gonna look really good. But just taking a step back and getting a nice view of this, you can definitely see how just building out of stone, it still looks pretty good. And whenever we start to really add that detail, that's when this thing's gonna pop. Now, I think at this point, it might be a good idea to go ahead and copy our selection here. This is kind of a crazy copy, but it is copied. And so I should be able to paste, and we can now see the entirety of this. And I also copied low enough so that way I can copy and transfer the floor over. So we just kind of rotate this in just the right orientation until we have, like, for example, this corner set up. So I will move this right on over here, and we already know where our line's going to be. And so I can anchor to this position, and I can see and now get this corner set up. And then we can actually nudge and move this entire build over. And so right here should be basically an exact copy of this side, but should be able to be placed over here. And we don't have to paste everything in at once, right? So you can see that everything's lined up. The only thing that I'm worried about is the floor level. So I do want to go ahead and make sure to go down one. Now everything should be where it's at. And I can right click to start forming everything, but I am going to need all of my stone. And we're going to need a lot of stone for this. So I do have more stone that is currently in the works. And you can see as it gets in my inventory, it's being used. So that is something I've got to keep in mind. And we can continue to build this out as we start to get more stone. So now I just have to go through the process, right, of just simply copying and pasting the rest of these. I already have the other section finished, but I'm just sort of waiting on stone, right? So I need to make probably another cobblestone generator or stone generator. And then I will have everything ready to go, right? Ready for decoration. And this is going to be our base. This is going to be the starting base. And I look forward to seeing what this sort of sort of develops into, because it's going to be not only above ground, but also underground. Oh, it's going to be so fun. So now, if you did enjoy and learn something new in today's episode, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, guys, and give this video a huge thumbs up. Also, comment down below some possible tips that you may have discovered along the way, because helping the community is something I love the most. Guys, also join the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. You can find me over there most of the time, and I do even hang out in the voice chats and typically am streaming some of the behind the scenes stuff. So be sure to check that out. Of course, guys, I think it's the time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to Lone Dark Lord. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by, of course, becoming a Discord premium member. Guys, it is going to feel so weird moving from this base, but I tell you what, it is going to be all worth it once it's all set up. And I tell you what, by the next episode, I'm going to have the framework basically done, and then we just get to work on decorating and start dabbling in some of the other more advanced mods. And so until then, I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and as always, thanks for watching.